Happy Friday, everybody! I have finished my homework finally. The last episode of Marie Kondo's show on Netflix is done. I'm really hoping there's a second season. So this one is about Angela and Alicia, and they are married and new homeowners. In fact, they have moved into their home 3 weeks prior to filming the episode, and Marie's like, oh, whoa, okay. So they're joining their lives together into this home, which we've seen with a few of the other people. Hey, Darby! Some of the other episodes, it was similar, where they brought their two worlds together and then never really sorted it out to create their new home. And this couple is unique because they get a chance to start fresh with this brand new home, brand new life together. And so they do a great job of making the living room look really nice, which I've noticed. I'm sure if you've seen the episode, you're like, wow, some of these places look really nice. Do they really need help? And Marie's like, are you sure you need help? They immediately take her into the room of clothes and clutter and, the place they want to shut the door and they don't want to look at. And she goes, okay, yes, I see. And she's very excited because, as we know, Marie loves clutter. So I found it interesting because Alicia starts to take ownership of the items in the room, the big cluttered room, almost like a kid, that's mine, over there is mine. And you see her just not necessarily proud, but pointing it out. And then I reflected on the past episodes, and there was usually one of them who was very serious about making sure you knew what clutter was theirs. And typically they were very cluttered, but it was just funny that it was that's mine, everything in the drawer is mine, this side is mine, that's mine. Very territorial in a sense. And so it made me laugh as I'm watching her kind of point all these things out, sort of like a kid does, that's my toy, that's mine, those are mine. The interesting thing about this couple is because both of them are female, they actually have chosen to share accessories. So they have the same belts, they have some of the same jewelry, but they put it away in different places, which is causing problems in their relationship. I can't find the belt I want to wear. That's our belt. Where did you put it? Well, I put it where it makes sense to me. Well, it doesn't make sense to me. And then you see sort of the tiff back and forth, and it's over where we put the belt. But we all know that arguments like that have a deeper rooted, hey, how can we balance our lives together when how I think it should go isn't how you should think, or you think it should go. So you see them sort of work that out in the process, and I thought that was really neat. They greet their home. I still haven't greeted my home. Have you guys greeted your home yet? Because I have not taken a moment to do that. I loved it because she had the couple do it with her. And very important because it's a new home for them. And so as they do it, you'll have to watch it. It's just hilarious. One of them does it for much longer than everyone else. And it was sort of, you can tell the music changes, of course, in the episode. And they kind of just sit there with her awkwardly. But it made me laugh. And it just reminded me again that process of welcoming a home, it might be different for everyone. It might be a long process. It might be short. There's a lot of things you might want to feel or think about as you visualize your home and thank it. So Alicia's issue is that she holds on to clothing, which we've seen before in other episodes, and she identifies this as also something that her grandmother did, and that's a similarity that they have. They both held on to clothes. So if I've talked about before, the Russian nesting doll clutter is the generational clutterer. It's in our family, we do this. And she seems to sort of take pride in that's something that unites her with this family member who you find out has passed. And so she held on to a dress that her grandmother gave her, even though it doesn't fit anymore. And she wore it a ton back when it did. And she says, I really have to learn how to take the memories out of items and to recognize I can still let the item go. And we've talked about this before. I struggle with that as well. You see something and it brings back the nostalgia and you think, I can't let that item go, or the nostalgia will be gone, or the memory will be gone, or that person will be gone. And how often that leads to having even more clutter because we emotionally can't let go. We see ourselves in that clutter, that mirror clutter, and it just becomes a challenge emotionally. And when you declutter and you have this issue, it will be emotionally exhausting. So do take breaks. Take moments to step away until you really get into that groove of This is what joy feels like versus nostalgia. And I remember, I believe it was the episode with Mario, where he had to learn the same thing, that nostalgia and joy aren't the same feelings. I like that the reemphasis again, we really need to confirm how we feel about each item that we possess. That is why she has you go through categories, so you really get all the items out. And what I also found interesting is when you see them go into the kitchen, I actually, if I was Marie, I would have everybody start with the kitchen versus the clothing, because the kitchen, all of their kitchens seem like that's the place where they really want the decluttering to happen, and they're kind of like ready. They just need help knowing how to sort. So I understand why she does clothing, because usually there's a lot of it and it really trains you. But man, I would like go through the glasses and the amount of coffee cups we have in our home. I'll be going through those in the next couple of weeks. But those things are really easy, I think, for many of us to just sort through, because we don't have emotional attachment as much to kitchen items. But Marie has her method, and I respect it and understand it. In the kitchen, this is something I didn't think about. In our homes or in a kitchen, whoever is in it the most needs to make sure that things are accessible, easiest for them. Everyone else is sort of support staff, and so even though it may not make sense that it's on a lower shelf or whatever, it's important to the person who's in that room the most. So if it's if it's an office that you share with your partner and your partner's in there way more than you, then things need to be where they understand and kind of flow with a balance of what makes sense to you as well. In the kitchen, I tend to do most of the cooking, 99% of the cooking, so really basically the cooking. And it took my husband a little bit to figure out why I put certain spices in certain places and certain seasoning things. And so once he figured out it doesn't matter, like it's important what he thinks, but I'm in there all the time. So it's important that it makes sense to me, and really having a system to it that I can teach. I can't tell you how many couples I've worked with where it's like, well, if you would just write down your system for me, like show me where everything is in the drawer of our kids' clothing or in the kitchen for our baked goods, then I'd know how to follow it. And it's true, we do need to communicate what our systems are in our home to our family members so that they know how to follow it and it makes sense. Or it just becomes a fight. And we get back into, like, I believe it was episode 2 or 3 with the family, where you just depend on the mom to keep answering where things are. You just depend on whoever it is who knows where everything is, because they created the system but never taught anyone else where things are. So let's not fall into that trap, ladies. Don't sort each other's items. That was reinforced again. I completely support that. We need to have respect for other people's items and their process of letting go or holding on to things. And it is not a competition. When you feel yourself getting into competition mode, recognize what's going on inside of you and what that's about. It's probably your typical nature with each other, and that's okay. But when it comes to finding joy in things, it doesn't need to be about how many versus how little you were able to do from the other person. It's about how you're feeling inside, and that's a very personal journey. I liked that she talked about pet items. So we don't have animals, but I grew up having animals, and she talks about how you need to have a designated space. You don't need to have like pet food over here and the leashes over there and all these things in different areas, but try to keep them nearby, except for the leashes can be by the door. And making sure that it makes sense where the food's all in one area, any like toys are all in one area. Very much like what she did with the kids and their toys. So if you've got pets, really look at where you have all of their items and how you can bring them more into one space so it's easier to access everything. Let's see. I found it very interesting that they process as a couple, and they said that things actually got worse before understanding the process and journey. So I'm going to say that again. Things got worse in the process of decluttering. Things got worse between them, more frustration towards themselves and internally, and before they understood the process and the journey that actually needs to happen. You have to have the battle within yourself and with each other to really get to the point of being authentic and raw and facing the emotions and the mental clutter that you have that's stopping you from being able to move forward, so that you understand that that is part of the journey, and it's actually the most beautiful part of the journey. because it shapes you. It changes you. As we know, the trials and tribulations we've experienced in our lives are what has really helped us become who we are. And often we want to run past those. Believe me, I get it. In my grief process right now, I'd love to just like fast forward, but I'm learning so much about myself by slowing it down. So remember when you're decluttering that it will probably, as I said, get worse before you really understand the process and the journey. So they declutter everything. Again, we don't really get to see all the clicks for people when they go, okay, now I can let things go. But I believe it's Angela says, I leave the door now open to that room that we used to shut off. Like, I want to see it. I like to see it. And I asked you guys before, what are the rooms you don't want to show, you want to hide from, and how can you start to change them so you enjoy them, that bring joy to you? She says it's soothing to open the drawers because all of it's in order and I know where everything is. I have many drawers that are not like that, and I want that feeling. I want that feeling because it's almost a decision fatigue issue too. Like, one, where is everything, and what do I want to pick from, versus having it all sorted out so that it's very easy to choose. They talk about how they learn more about each other. I don't care how long you've been married. When you declutter a space, a home together, you're going to learn even more about each other. And I think it's actually a great process for a couple to go through. I'm going to start recommending it in all my couples therapy sessions. Just kidding. Maybe not. But it is an important process to better understanding yourself and your partner. Lastly, they talked about this whole process of the Marie Kondo's method, KonMari, is the lifestyle change. Because really you start to look at how you buy things, how you treat things, and he said it's very therapeutic. And I thought that was a beautiful way of defining it, that it's very therapeutic to learn how to let go and to understand yourself better and to understand your partner better. So this last episode wasn't my favorite, but was very good at really kind of sealing up the bow of this show for right now and kind of saying, okay, here are some of the things that we've learned throughout the process. And it almost was like pieces of all the other show episodes coming together that were reflected upon, and I really liked that. I hope that they'll go back into the homes and let you see what was kept up and what wasn't, and get honest feedback from the families of what struggles still occur. Because as you guys know, that is a large reason why I created the Breaking Free from the Cluttered Life course. Because if we're not addressing the mental and emotional clutter that is separate from the physical clutter, then physical clutter naturally happens because we feel cluttered. We mentally think cluttered, and then we start to leave stuff out again. So I want to see how much change really happened purely from addressing the physical clutter, which kind of addressed the mental and emotional, or if things fell back into old ways. So I want to hear your thoughts on these episodes. What have you thought about the show itself? And how are you going to start making sure you spark joy with more things in your life, more people, more situations, more habits, and more rooms in your home? Okay, y'all enjoy. I'm going to be gone next week. I've already pre-scheduled all the posts, so you guys will keep up with making sure you're setting your goals and preparing. And can you believe February starts next week? Oh my gosh. I have some fun things lined up for you guys for February, because it's the month of love, and I want to show you guys love and caring. So I'm going to have some speakers come in and talking to you about some more details and really teaching you about being a chief household officer in specific areas. So I've been listening and reading and watching what you guys have been talking about, and I've found some even more expert speakers on particular topics so that you can hear from beyond me what ways you can improve your life as a chief household officer. So look forward to that in February. And again, post below and let me know what you thought of the Marie Kondo show. Do we like it? Do we not? Each of us can have different opinions, of course. This is a safe place for that. Enjoy your day and enjoy the weekend.